No, I just been out there. Is this? L- Ladies, no. Is this on?
I don't know if you're aware, but Jim may not be here.
Oh.
So do you have a second? Like, do you know that Rob Thomas who sent he wrote something on Mass Live?
Who?
Rob Thomas.
I don't care who it is.
You don't care who it is, all right? I'll
No.
find somebody. Not an elected official.
No. Is this on? Hello? Microphone isn't working. We'll do that. We'll do that. If I can get the microphone to work. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got microphone is working. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock. I'm reliably informed that we have a quorum. There are, however, people that are still out there checking into, but we have enough people to have a quorum. And so I'm going to declare that the 2015 special town meeting is in session. Now, I want to make it clear before we start that we have some rules regarding visitors to this town meeting, whether it be the press or whether it be anybody who is not a voting resident of this town. You cannot be on the floor of the town meeting. We have bleachers on this side, of course, and on this side. This section here, this section right here is the only place where visitors can be. And I really would ask the press that's a section for the town meeting members. I'd ask the press to move it over here, please. So, to repeat, any visitor to the town meeting must be in this section here. Now, just so that we can get things off, would the town meeting please rise to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, as far as the fire exits, ladies and gentlemen, they're in back of you. They're on either side of, over here on the side of the gymnasium. They're all marked with green exits. All those fire exits are available for use. So if there's a fire alarm for any reason, the preferred way is to go out and out the rear exits, but these exits here will take you, and they're perfectly able to be used, so I'm advised by the fire department. Now, we have a color card tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little bit different tonight. We have a pink is the color of the night. And that's the card that you'll be using, just like you have at any other town meeting. If there's a special procedure that we're going to use when the final vote on Article 1 is taken. There's only one article. There's one article, it's Article 1, and at the conclusion, assuming there aren't any prior motions, if there are any prior motions like a motion to amend or a motion to lay on the table or a motion to move the previous questions, we have counters for that purpose, as we always have. We have counters in each section that have the entire gymnasium covered. So in the event that there is a hand count, you're going to be asked to raise your hand and keep them raised until you are counted. The counters will take their clicks with their counters. They'll point at you, they'll click you, and that way that you'll be sure that you're counted. And that applies to they're going to cover of course, both sides of the gym and the bleachers. So if there's any count before the final count, there's going to come a time, ladies and gentlemen, when we take a final vote. Now I'm going to explain the procedure now, and I'm going to explain the procedure to you at the time that we do it. The pink card that you have is going to serve as your ballot tonight. We are going to have boxes on either side of the gymnasium. It's going to be a tightly controlled process by me, whereby the select people and the school committee will go up and deposit their ballot into the box. This side of the gymnasium will go in that box over here. This side in the bleachers, there'll be a box over here where the school committee is, and they're going to deposit their ballot. The only thing that you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is write on the back, and then we'll supply you with pencils. The only thing that you're going to do is write yes, you are in favor, yes or no. Yes means that you're in favor of the motion. No means that you are not. I'm going to request your cooperation, ladies and gentlemen, so that we can do this in the most orderly process. So section by section, we'll come up row by row. This side will deposit their ballot into this box. This side of the gymnasium will deposit their ballot into this box. And I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, that as soon as you've made that vote, that you return to your seat until the balloting is completed. It's not going to be that difficult a process. You're going to write yes or no on the back of your ballot, fold it, and deposit it into the box and return to your seat. So we will have an usher on this side of the room, an usher on this side, and you'll go up row by row. As soon as you go up and deposit your ballot, return to your seat, because there's other people that have to vote. And I want to emphasize this, ladies and gentlemen. It's one person, one vote. You will not be allowed to vote twice. For your neighbor, it's a perfectly legitimate reason. Your neighbor can't be here or has to leave for some reason, and they want you to vote for them. You cannot do it. It's unfair. It will not be accepted. Even if you choose not to vote, put your ballot into the box, because as soon as that ballot goes into the box, it's no more good, and you're going to be issued another, excuse me. Now, as soon as you drop the ballot, the pink card, into the box, you will be given a different colored card in the event, ladies and gentlemen, there's some kind of motion for reconsideration. So you'll keep that card, and that will become the new color of the night, and that pink card is going to be no more good. So this is a process, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to follow tonight. I want to do this as orderly and as quickly as possible. Now, once the balloting is completed, those boxes will be taken by the town clerk. And the town clerk will take the boxes into a room. We will also have, I believe we will also have a police officer accompanying us by boxes to a room where they can be counted. I will have, not only the town clerk will have a person, we have town clerk and the assistant town clerk. We'll be having one assistant town clerk count one box and another assistant town clerk counting the other box. There'll be somebody watching that count to make sure that it's accurate. In addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, just so that there's no question, we will have a proponent of the motion as well as an opponent to the motion watching the whole counting process. So it's, the counting will take a little bit of time, but the voting should not. Now, I should add this, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason that we're here is because of a confluence of events that happened at the previous town meeting. You know, town meetings are highly organized proceedings these days, and the moderator is responsible for the orderly discussion and the orderly preparation of the town meeting. That did not happen the last time, and the responsibility for making sure that the town meeting is run in an orderly and proper fashion rests here with me and not with anybody else. So in that respect, ladies and gentlemen, I truly appreciate your coming out tonight. I truly appreciate and apologize to the town meeting. In the years that I've been a town moderator, not one particular individual or one particular issue, but the Long Meadow Town Meeting has been exceedingly kind to me over the years. And I can't tell you how gracious the town meeting has been to me over the years, and I really appreciate your being here tonight, and I hope we can just move on. I think you all know why you're here, and everybody should have a seat. If you don't have a seat, then let one of the counters know or let somebody know, because when you are seated, you're going to have to return to that seat when the voting begins. Please identify yourself when you get up at the microphone. All questions and directions and discussions are directed through the moderator. All amendments, motions or amendments must be in writing. What I'm told, ladies and gentlemen, is that, you know, there's a lot of people still coming into the high school. So when I tell you about the voting process, we're going to go through it again. Well, when all, well, no, wait a minute. I'm told there's a ton of people out there, and they don't know necessarily what's going on, but that's going to be at the tail end when we're ready to vote. We'll do it, but it's unfair to them. That's the way it's going to be. So with that, I will recognize who's moving Article 1? Mr. Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jeffrey Roberts. I live at 370 Inverness Lane in Long Meadow. With reference to Article 1 of tonight's warrant, I move that the town will vote to change the zoning district in which the land described in this article is located from the Residence A district to the business district, or to take any other action relative thereto. And I ask your permission to insert by reference into this motion the legal description that is in the warrant to save the time of reading it.
All right. Do I hear a second? All right. The motion is moved and seconded. Do I hear any opposition to dispense with the formal legal description of the parcel? Seeing none, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. I think at this point in the proceeding, I'm to yield to Bruce Colton, the chairman of the planning board.
Mr. Colton.
Yes, my name is Bruce Colton. I'm currently the chair of the Long Meadow Planning Board. I live at 91 Whitman Road. The planning board, by a vote of 5-0, endorses this proposed zone change. Earlier last year, prior to the previous town meeting, the planning board endorsed this proposed zone change by a vote of 4-0. At that time, one of our members was in Europe. It should be noted that this is a vote to rezone a parcel of land from residential to business. It is not a vote to approve the building of anything on that property. The town controls any proposed construction on the land through site and design review. Despite what you may have heard, site and design review, since its inception in 1991, is arguably the most successful regulatory procedure in town history. The mere knowledge that it was looming over the horizon was sufficient to get the petitioner to submit 2 major revisions to its proposed plan, adding about 100 parking spaces and totally revamping the traffic flow within the parking lot. Fears have been expressed of some sort of possible conspiracy between the Long Meadow shops and CVS to somehow bamboozle the town. I can state unequivocally that since site and design review went into effect in 1991, there have been no petitioners before the planning board which have been more open and honest with the planning board than the Long Meadow shops. They have even brought things before us for approval that did not require planning board approval. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying that they're better than anyone else in town. Most petitioners are open and honest with us, but over the years, many have been far worse. If this zone change is approved, any proposed use of the land would be subject to site and design review. I won't bother reviewing all of the criteria which must be met under that procedure, but I will simply note that the bylaw, which lists them, is 8 pages long. The major concerns that I hear voiced by the public involve traffic and parking. Parking and any traffic effects will be studied by independent experts retained by the planning board prior to any approval, or for that matter, any vote on this proposal. It has been suggested by some that this procedure, essentially the site and design review procedure, should be done before any zone change vote. The planning board's experience over the last 24 years would suggest that this is unnecessary. Furthermore, frankly, it wouldn't work. Site and design review plans can be amended by sponsors at any time, both before and after approval. if post-approval changes are made and they're deemed significant, the initial approval would then be invalid, and the planning board would hold new hearings on the amended proposals. This has, in fact, happened in the past. It should also be noted that even if you feel, as perhaps some do, that this land should only be used for additional parking spaces with no structures on it, it should be noted that this cannot be done without a zone change. Since 1988, parking for businesses or the professional zone cannot be sited on residentially zoned land. This bylaw, in fact, was passed because of problems with the previous ownership of the Longmeadow Shops. Finally, seemingly at the last minute, someone has come up with a 34-year-old agreement, which was made part of a court order in housing court, which states, among other things, that the Longmeadow Shops cannot prevent people from attending sporting events, cannot prevent people attending sporting events at the high school fields from parking in the western end of their parking lot. This agreement essentially prevents these cars from being towed away. This agreement, I believe, is still valid, but it really has nothing to do with the town's criteria for required parking spaces. The strongest argument for its irrelevance is that in the last 34 years since this agreement existed, it has apparently never been considered to affect the required number of parking spaces in the Longmeadow Shops. Parking sufficiency, you may or may not be aware, is considered not only every time new construction is done in the Longmeadow Shops, but it's done every time a business changes. You know, if a business, old business moves out, new business comes in, new restaurant moves out, new restaurant comes in, and so forth. We have, in fact, had countless of these changes since 1981 and 1982. Originally, parking requirement, well, actually, for all this time, the Zoning Board of Appeals is the ultimate decision maker on parking requirements. Initially, there were no numerical or codified numerical requirements for parking, and the ZBA used whatever criteria they thought were appropriate. Since 1997, bylaws in town have set out a very detailed criteria for parking requirements for business sites in town, or business or professional sites in town. And never, as far as I am aware, and as far, okay, I'm told, can everyone hear me?
Here. Handholds.
I don't know if I need to start all over. I really don't want to. Could I just perhaps, maybe with a show of hands, what sections were having difficulty hearing me? I just see a couple hands being raised, so I'll just keep going forward, hoping that most of you could hear me. In any event, as I was saying, whenever, obviously whenever new construction is done in the Longmeadow Shops, the parking requirements are examined, but also whenever any business leaves the Longmeadow Shops and is replaced by another business or restaurant or professional office, another parking study is done to make sure that the Longmeadow Shops as a whole have enough parking for these institutions or businesses or offices or whatever. And never, to my knowledge, and this was the effect, or was in effect back in the 1980s and the 90s and the throughout this century. And never, to my knowledge, has anyone or any of these studies considered that occasional parking for allowing like overflow from the high school lot for people going to sporting events at the football field or the fields across the street was required to be part of the mix for the Long Meadow Shops parking. I would, again, just to close, I would suggest that the Planning Board has no fears about its ability to regulate any new construction proposed for this site. And in fact, this site and design review for this project, assuming the zone change is approved, arguably gives the town its best chance to deal with any required traffic changes in this part of town. So for all these reasons, the Planning Board has voted 5-0 in favor of this zone change.
All right. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, as in the previous town meeting, Mr. Roberts is going to have two visitors to the town meeting who are the owners of the property. They are going to speak. I'm going to give them no more than 15 minutes, and they will take any questions from the town meeting. They will then retire from the floor. Mr. Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Colton, for that lengthy explanation, which I think was well done, and I guess we didn't have time to do that at the last meeting. There are many people here who were at the last meeting, and I think looking around the room, there are a lot of people who weren't here at the last meeting. And there's been a lot of press, news articles, and talk about this zone change. But nevertheless, on behalf of Long Meadow Shops, I'd like to say that we would like to have the opportunity briefly to thoroughly explain what's going on with this property and why this proposal has been made to all of you to vote on. Some of what Mr. Colton said I will repeat, but I think I'm going to be also a little more specific. So on the screen behind me is an overhead photo of Long Meadow Shops. The part I'm pointing at now is the west end of the shops. It's where the athletic fields are. This zone change vote has nothing to do with that end of the property. The 1.82 acre piece is on the east end, and that is now, as is shown in the picture, vacant land. All of the property within the perimeter is owned by Long Meadow Shops. However, and all of it is zoned business, except for, at least on the east end of the property, except for that 1.82 acres. That is zoned residential. So the purpose of this meeting is to allow the zone to be changed from residential to business. In anticipation of questions that were asked at the last meeting, I'll say some things in advance. One of them is that all of the property from the end of the business zone owned by Long Meadow Shops out to Frank Smith Road, or Redfern, I guess, is zoned residential. The 1.2 acres is the part that Long Meadow Shops own. The other part is owned by the church. So this vote is only the 1.2 acres, which is about 79,000 square feet. The process here, this vote tonight is part of a process that I think can be described in 3 simple steps. The process is governed by state law, and to a lesser extent to a significant extent by Long Meadow zoning bylaws under the jurisdiction of the Planning Board. So under state law, if you're a property owner and you want to change your zone, then you have to file essentially a petition with the town asking that the zone be changed. That petition then goes to the Planning Board, and only the Planning Board. The Planning Board is the only board that has any jurisdiction or vote on this whatsoever. So the proposal went to the Planning Board last year, and as Mr. Colton explained, it was reviewed by the Planning Board over a period of, I think, probably 4 meetings. There have been 2 public hearings, and following these reviews, the Planning Board has recommended, as he said, unanimously in favor of changing the zone. Only now is this subject to a vote by the town. The planning board is just making its recommendation to you. You have to decide whether to change. If the zone is not changed, then that property cannot be used for any business purpose. So for example, it would not be possible today under Long Meadow's bylaws to use that property to add more parking spaces because it's zoned residential. And the bylaws today do not permit you to use residential property for a business purpose. So the only way any change can be made by Long Meadow Shops is to first change the zone. That is the reason that the application was filed with the planning board in the first place. Now, the third step is that if this zone change is approved, before Long Meadow Shops can do anything with the property, it has to go through site and design review with the planning board, which is what Mr. Colton explained, and which has 8 pages of requirements that have to be satisfied, and which is a lengthy process, and which has resulted in other occasions that were mentioned at the last meeting where the developer was not getting what it wanted and just walked away because it just couldn't do what it wanted to do, and that was the example of the planning board process protecting the town. So if this is approved, that process has to take place. Now, in every situation where there's a zone change, even though it can be said that you're voting on one thing, which is yes or no to change the zone, everyone wants to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is question number 1, and parking and traffic is question number 2, and they dwarf all other questions. And at the last town meeting, if you add up all the comments, that was a major part of it. So the first what's going to happen is, if the zone change is approved, what are Long Meadow Shops going to do? Well, Long Meadow Shops, like every other property owner, has a plan in mind before it goes to the planning board and asks the planning board to approve a zone change. And the reason is that every planning board on the planet says, what are you going to do if we recommend in favor of the zone change? And what has happened over 4 or 5 meetings between Long Meadow Shops and the planning board is a site plan was developed that showed the wish list of Long Meadow Shops of what it wants to do, amended by agreement from comments from the planning board that said, if you get this zone change, don't come back here with that plan or we're not going to recommend in favor of the zone change. And that's really the reality of the process. It's not a bait and switch deal where Long Meadow Shops can come in and say, I want you to change the zone because I want to put up such and such, and then all of a sudden a parking garage is built on that property. So the process is very closed and very controlled, again, as Mr. Colton just explained. So the motivation here essentially answers the question. Long Meadow Shops has a shopping center that's dated in several respects. And one of the primary respects is that CVS, over the umpteen years that there have been pharmacies, from when it was, I think it was Ryan Drug, to now, a CVS now serves far more purposes than pharmacies did 20 or 25 years ago. And people want those services. People want to go to those places and they want to get the things that those stores are selling. So the problem that Long Meadow Shops has, that some people in Long Meadow feel is a problem that Long Meadow has, but that's up to you to decide. But from Long Meadow Shops' perspective, the CVS is too small and it's in the wrong place. That has to do with parking. Because CVS is in the middle of the shopping center, and CVS generates an enormous amount of drive-in, park your car, run in, run out, and leave again. It's right smack in the middle of the shopping center. the architects tell me, and they'll tell you tonight, that nobody designs a shopping center this way anymore. Just like banks are at the ends of the shopping centers so you can have drive-throughs, pharmacies are at the ends of the shopping centers. And the reason is they can have dedicated parking and they can have a drive-through. And if that is done here, then CVS is very happy because it makes its customers happy and it's easier to get to. And all of the other tenants in Long Meadow Shops are very happy because now there's room for parking for their customers. So the motivation for this is because Long Meadow Shops, the owners of Long Meadow Shops, are being asked by CVS to do something about this shop, and CVS is saying, you know, if you build us this at, you know, this building we're talking about, if you can get approval to build it, we'll move there, and then you can put tenants in the middle of the shopping center, 1 or 2 tenants, however many it is, that are more suitable to be there. And that's why Long Meadow Shops proposed a zone change to the planning board. It isn't because they want to have a zone change and then they want to think about, what am I going to do now that I have my zone change? They've spent huge amounts of time with the planning board to design a shopping center that the planning board, even prior to site and design review, has organized with them, recommending that this be done. And that's really the whole story of how this is all coming about. Now, the other issue is, again, traffic and parking. Traffic and parking is the problems that exist out there. If you've been to the shopping center, I would submit are largely on the grounds of the shopping center, not so much on the streets around it. And the traffic and the parking now is a problem that, to the extent it's a problem, the Long Meadow Shops is trying to alleviate by doing this. Their belief and their experience and their experts say that if you can move CVS to this location, you'll solve a lot of problems that now exist in the shopping center. So for the shopping center, this is a very good result if you will approve it. There's no question that these people want to build this building. There's no question that CVS wants them to build a building. Has a lease been signed? Well, of course not. You can't sign a lease. You don't even have a zone change yet. But these things will happen in due course, as they typically do. And when these projects come before Long Meadow Planning Board, there's always approvals that have to be done. But the projects are built out the way they're proposed. And I think that will happen again. Finally, what does the town get out of this? They get an improved shopping center, and they get some tax revenue that they're not getting now, which some people at the last meeting said, well, $80,000 or $90,000 a year, who cares? Well, there are people who care. And this is another benefit the town gets out of it. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Matt Whitmer, who's the architect, who has slides that we were unable to look at the last meeting to show you what is being proposed. Thank you.
And just a moment, there's been other people that have come into the gymnasium. If you have not a pink card, you are a visitor, and the visitors belong in this section here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you see somebody that doesn't have a pink card, they don't belong where they're sitting, they belong here. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For the record, my name is Matt Whitmer with Phaseo Design Architects of Springfield, Massachusetts. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and thank you. I know it's a cold night. I appreciate all of you coming. I will be, certainly, I'm not as tall as Bruce, so I will do my best here. In fact, maybe I'll even hold it if I don't trip myself. Okay. Thank you, folks. The Long Meadow Shops, which is up here tonight, is a community shopping center, which is a cluster of local stores as well as regional and national brands that creates a centralized shopping center area with a strong mix of retail and restaurant. The shops are owned by Grove Property Fund, which is a family business owned by the Navarro brothers, who I'm happy to announce are both here this evening with you tonight. The Grove purchased the property about 20 years ago, and while the retail market can certainly be volatile, they have consistently worked to improve the shops to create a dynamic mix of tenants and provide customers with a positive shopping experience. The unique blend of tenants combined with the shop's location in the center of town has positioned them as a cornerstone of the Long Meadow community. The center's parking lots and entrance drives, however, were last renovated in about 1970, over 45 years ago. And the center as a whole suffers from pedestrian access issues and parking issues that makes the shop sometimes difficult for shoppers to navigate. The project began as an effort to find more retail space within the shops and correct some of these parking and pedestrian issues. However, that quickly morphed to an opportunity to relocate the CVS pharmacy. Pharmacies have changed significantly in the last 45 years. Originally developed to provide medical needs and pharmaceuticals, today they provide all sorts of additional sundries from greeting cards to toothpaste. Pharmacies now generate more trips and shopping activity and are typically located at the end of a retail center or retail development or in a standalone parcel by themselves. They have dedicated parking fields and they have drive-through lanes for prescription pickup. CVS has expressed great interest in relocating their pharmacy to an area within the shops where a dedicated parking lot could be provided and a drive-through lane for pharmacy pickup. This relocation allows us to also resolve many of the access and parking issues at the shops, but also requires a need to expand the site to accommodate these improvements. The area to the east of the shops, which was already pointed out, is the area that we're looking at locating or relocating the CVS, which is approximately 1.8 acres, currently zoned A1 residential. So the proposal before you this evening in its simplest form is a zone change request. However, in the instance and desire for transparency, Grove Properties wants to show what improvements they anticipate. These plans are a work in progress, and the zone change request is only the first step in this process. Grove Properties fully anticipates a complete review which will follow, which will include traffic studies, drainage studies, incorporate comments and input from the town and the various boards that oversee site and building design. Now, from the outset, the site lends itself well to supporting a business use or commercial use, with the existing topography creating a natural berm that rises up about 20 feet in elevation and then drops back down to where the homes are located. And I'll show you the parcel right here, and you can see this natural buffer. It's about a 20-foot rise and then back down to where these homes are located. We intend to maintain this buffer, put a fence here, and plant this out to create a lush planted landscape. You'll also note the amount of space that remains here between the Church First Scientist parking lot and the shops. Now, from the onset, or rather I'll say, actually, could I have the next slide, please? Move on? Okay, thank you. One of the most significant improvements to the current design affects the parking lots and the access. And I'll show you that on this drawing here. This is the existing shops. This is the proposed CVS retail construction. And you can see how a lot of the parking, for those of you that know this parking, has changed. Apparently, originally there were a lot of dead-end parking runs here where someone would come in, try to find a spot. If the spot was taken, they would have to back out and go to the next one. Instead, we've created a much more intuitive parking scenario where we've got a much more linear process, both in here, and both in here for the shops. No, I'm fine, but thank you. Thank you. Now, the parking project, rather the reparking as well, provides 139 spaces, which are provided throughout the parking center, as well as accommodating the farmers market at the west end and maintaining the ability for parents to park at the athletic fields. I will also add that this achieves 100% compliance with the town's parking requirements, whereas the existing parking situation at the shops today only achieves 93% compliance with the Longmeadow zoning regs. Now, to allow for these improvements, we also anticipate relocating CVS to a larger store footprint and providing the store with a drive-through pharmacy. CVS anticipates that shoppers will enter the center just to shop at CVS. By relocating CVS to the eastern portion of the site and providing a dedicated entrance from William Street, which is this slipway right here, this right turn only in that takes you right into this dedicated area for CVS, avoiding cars from having to go down, continue down William Street onto Bliss and enter in through here or enter in through here. We've allowed that to be created right here. that this will reduce the number of traffic traveling along William Street and provide better access to the parking center itself. Dedicated parking field is provided at the entrance, and this new entrance, as you can see, also aligns directly with the drive-through, which is in the back of CVS, so you can come in here and go right into the drive-through and back out. These changes are supported by CVS Corporate and are also help support the needs of mothers with children, the elderly, helps in eliminating the spread of disease by providing sick individuals an opportunity to obtain prescriptions without having to enter the store. Historic data also shows that at least 25% of shoppers, if given the choice, will choose to use the drive-through rather than park in the parking lot and enter the store. Now, some folks have also asked us if these parking improvements could be undertaken without expanding the shops. The biggest contributor towards the congestion in the parking lot is CVS. If we alter the layout of the parking lot without adding any additional parking, we'd only gain 7 spaces in the most contested or congested area in front of CVS. We feel that CVS needs to be moved to its proposed location in order to fully realize the parking and safety improvements that are being proposed. And the next slide, too. Thank you. Our proposal also includes improvements for pedestrian access to the shops, an additional sidewalk space, better signage for wayfinding, more bike racks and benches, and more pedestrian crosswalks located throughout the complex. These crosswalks include striped crosswalks on the pavement, as well as a series of raised crosswalks located in areas where vehicles are turning and at the shop's entrances themselves. These raised crosswalks allow pedestrians to cross a street at the same level of the sidewalk. These help to slow down vehicles and have an overall calming effect on traffic. If I could have the next slide. I have some examples here so that you can understand what these are. These have been used successfully in shopping centers and college campuses across the country, as well as at the new Longmeadow High School. And I will tell you, this is an image here on a not so snowy day of the Longmeadow High School raised crosswalk. Many of you are familiar with. You can actually see that a pedestrian continues to walk at grade of the sidewalk. It's the vehicles themselves that drive up and over this hump. It's a traffic calming device that has been used effectively in other areas, and we believe it'll provide the desired effect in this environment as well. Can I have the next slide? The architectural character of the proposed retail buildings is in keeping with the existing center and looks to blend with the existing colors and architectural features. We're using brick to match the existing buildings, along with similar sized columns, pilasters, windows, and trim. And the scale of the proposed buildings is in keeping with the scale of the buildings currently at the shops. Now, in closing, I'd just like to make 2 quick points. If this proposal is approved and CVS moves into their new location, Grove will look to find the strongest retail tenants available that fit the dynamic blend that the shops have to offer. Additionally, there's no intent by Grove Property to deviate from the design that's being proposed this evening. Finally, I'd just like to add in closing, we're very excited about this proposal. We do believe it solves many of the shop's parking lot and pedestrian access issues. It also makes good economic sense, and we will believe will be a positive improvement for the town of Longmeadow. We realize this is the first step in the process, but we look forward to working collaboratively with the town on moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
This car is a black Ford. This is the license plate. It's blocking somebody's car and they're trying to leave.
All right. I've been informed that there is a car out there with a license. It's a mass plate black Ford with a license plate, I can read it, GW168. You're blocking somebody in. Move your car. Okay. Are we through with the, we'll have now questions of the developer from town meeting, and then they will retire from the floor. So let's just take any questions that town meeting has of these gentlemen from Long Meadow Shops. Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Wallman. I live on Pinewood Drive. You showed the new entrance with a slipway. How do you propose to prevent people from exiting that entrance? Because
Yes.
people, that is in a two-way street where Williams Street is, and the way you've drawn that slipway, it's a great way to go out and take a left turn towards Redfern Drive.
If I may, is this on? Yeah, that slipway would be designed in a traffic term as a what's called a pork chop. So if you look at it in plan, it's a true pork chop where the curve of the pork chop is what gives you the entrance. I can't put it up because unfortunately the laptop was taken down, and I think that's part of town meeting requirements at this point. But I think many of you have it on your handout. You see it actually doesn't allow traffic to exit out. If you were to exit out of that, your car would be facing the oncoming traffic on Bliss Road. So you have no way of doing that. It is signed that way as one way only. It's actually very similar to the exit that you have right now at the Long Meadow High School, which only allows you to go out and make a right-hand turn out onto, and that's a two-way street out here. Over here at this exit here, it's two ways onto Williams. It only allows traffic to go out that way. It's the same design, but it's rotated 90 degrees, so traffic could only come in that way. It does work here in town. It is a traffic element that's used here successfully, and we'd imagine it would work very well at Long Meadow Shops.
And how would you
Yes, sir.
stop cars going east on Williams Street from going around and making a little loop to get into that slipway?
The same way it's designed at the high school, if you do that, the curbing is such that you can't make the turn. If you take a look at the access and the exit out here, if you were to try to come down Williams and make a turn into that, of course you wouldn't because there is a way to get in on off of the Williams right into the high school. But if you were to try to do that, the turning radius is such that a typical vehicle cannot make that turn from the opposite direction.
Further questions of Long Meadow Shops? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Irene Lucalis, and I live on 40 Woodside Drive. And my concern is that we're really looking at the entire project, but when we look at things like the importance of trees, they're so important in terms of the carbon dioxide. We're going to have a lot of extra traffic coming and going. I don't really know, I saw the little bushes there, but really that's not what, when I think about a beautiful place, I'm thinking about the aesthetics, but not just the aesthetics, the fact that the trees are not only going to help us with the air pollution, but they're going to be great in terms of storm water, picking up with the roots and all that kind of thing. And I don't know whether the property folks have really given a lot of thought to that part of the plan, because it just doesn't seem that way. To say you're going to have a lush berm in the back is great. That's one part of it. So I'm looking at that part, and also if you have built in a place for real trees, I'm not just talking about little bushes, what kinds of, do you have an irrigation system that you think is going to be going in there? Because you're going to have to maintain those as well. What I would hate to see is a whole bunch of more asphalt, and where do we get some other greenery in there?
No, I appreciate the comment. I mean, it certainly is very appropriate that there's more landscape that's incorporated as part of the plan. That would be part of the planning process as we move forward. At this point, it's really more of a parking layout and a building layout. But I can assure you that is the intention, to have more trees in there. We would also do an irrigation system.
Parts of the parking lot, though, because if you're just going to stick something in the corner, that's really not going to be a good plan. It's like that's an afterthought. You've got the 139 spots. I don't really see a nice plan where it's really been thoughtfully thought about, in plans. I guess that's my biggest reservation about it is because what you do is going to influence us for generations to come. It's not just slap a whole bunch of asphalt. It's going to be getting hot in the summertime, and we won't even have any cooling properties for the trees. So I guess it may sound a little nutty, but we really need to look at the whole picture.
No, I appreciate the comment, and it is something that we would certainly want to accommodate. Thank you.
Just a minute, Mr. Friedman. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little problem here in terms of there's a lot of people here in the auditorium. It's giving the fire chief concern, the fire people concern. People that are in back must come down and find a seat. You can't sit back in the auditorium or stand in back of the auditorium. It represents a fire hazard. So would you please move out of that area and find a seat. There are seats down here closer to the podium that aren't visitors. This isn't visitor area. You can sit right here.
He doesn't want us outside the door. He's what he said. That's becoming a problem outside the doors. They're congregating out there trying to listen to what's going on.
And I'm informed that the individuals outside the auditorium or the gymnasium, you can't congregate there either. So you have to find a seat.
I did tell people out there, and there's deciding whether they're staying.
Yeah, all right. Mr. Friedman, please. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Kurt Friedman, 24 Ridge. Mr. Moderator, it's been my understanding that this project will be a total of 21,000 square feet. Can I receive some confirmation of that? And two, how many square feet will the pharmacy be?
The pharmacy is going to be 13,000 square feet.
Is it fair, Mr. Moderator, to ask what the hours of operation would be of this facility?
Sure, Mr. Friedman, whatever you want.
What do you Is there an intended hours of operation?
The same as they are now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Noreen Tolosky of 83 Willowbrook Road. I just have a practical question. As far as we are in New England, the area where they're proposing the new CVS is where they harbor all the snow for the entire winter. Would you have a lot of heavy equipment be coming in and out of all the entrances and exits to remove the snow?
Steve Walker. Business in the shopping center is down about 30 to 40% in the winter, so we might have to relocate that snow a little differently than we do today once this development, if this thing goes through. So I do not see us taking trucks through Long Meadow, bringing snow someplace else. I don't see that happening.
But I think with 30% more parking, you're talking about a lot of parking spots that need to be cleared out. Therefore, you'd have more snow.
We may have to take the snow and pile it higher in different sections of the shopping center.
Because the area of concern is if you do have heavy equipment, Bliss Road would be impacted in the school districts.
Yeah, I don't see us taking snow, and I don't even know where you'd bring it, quite honestly. It'd be the same equipment that's there today.
Yes, sir.
Steve Lipo, 52 Warwick Street. How wide are these parking spaces?
Yeah, it's a great question. They're DOT standards. They're 9 feet by 20. They're not compact spaces. Actually, they're 9 by 18, I'm sorry, with 20-foot drive aisles.
Okay, going back to the snow situation, I see no place on here where snow can be piled up. By the looks of things, there are parking spaces all around the perimeter, and no place really to pile snow. We had a storm yesterday, we had one a week ago that dumped quite a bit of snow on us. There's got to be a plan to remove that snow from there or have a place to pile it. If not, you're going to be losing probably 30% of your parking spaces because of snow.
Yeah, it's
shops on the way here today, and I saw snow piled up all over that took a lot of parking spaces away, and
Yeah, if I may, the snow is piled at the west end. Those spaces are not used by the athletic fields, and as Steve Walker mentioned, the shops are pretty much off by 30% in sales and parking, so those spaces do come available to accommodate the snow during those times. After Christmas, the shopping does tend to drop off.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kevin Coughlin, Converse Street. The current CVS, how many square feet is it?
So that's 8,000 square feet?
And we're going to increase to 21,000, correct?
To 13,000.
To 13,000. When a company such as CVS, do they do an analysis of how many clients or customers they're going to see per hour by increasing that footprint?
They do, but CVS's business model is not based on trying to bring more customers from a different region to their stores. They're a provider that wants to have a CVS or a pharmacy in every town or every area. Their motivation to increase the square footage is to try to drive more dollars from each customer, so that if you come in, say, for a prescription or something else, there's more there for you to purchase that would keep you in the store longer and purchasing more.
So the focus is on more dollars rather than more customers.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion, questions of the Longmeadow shops? Yes, ma'am.
Beth Cronlin, 134 Farmington Avenue, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of talking about snow, I'd like to talk about the summer, please. I was curious, what is going to happen with the farmers market at the Longmeadow shops with the changes here?
Mr. Walker?
The farmers market will be relocated back to where it was several years ago. The only reason we moved the farmers market in the first place is because the high school was being built and there was a lot of stress on that part of the shopping center because of that. So we will be moving them back. There was an editorial actually by the farmers themselves supporting this, saying that they will be back next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, any further questions of the Longmeadow shops? All right. Mr. Grant.
Alex Grant, Longmeadow Select Board. I just had a question to follow up about the farmers market, because that is important. The commitment you just made verbally to us, is that something that you can put in writing? And how long, if you are willing to put it in writing, how long would you be willing to guarantee the farmers market would be able to remain there?
It was actually our idea to bring the farmers markets to town in the first place. We get no rent or anything from the farmers market. We brought that into place for the people of Longmeadow. That's why we brought it here. We thought it was a need, and our plans are to continue that for the foreseeable future. You know, I don't see why that is going to be ever eliminated. Yeah. And thank you for supporting that. I appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen, if you'll retire from the floor, please, having seen no other questions from the town meeting. And we'll open up the discussion to any question for or against the motion. Further discussion on the motion under Article 1.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Steve Wallman. I live on Pinewood Drive. Yes. I have no doubt that the petitioners are working ethically and trying to expand their shopping center for the benefit of the town and for the benefit of themselves. The problem I do have is it being a commercial project and the traffic survey being done after a zone change is made, which is something we cannot address tonight. We don't know what that traffic survey is going to say. And my problem is the traffic survey, after it's done, could recommend a traffic light. Somebody has to pay for that traffic light. Now, personally, I don't think that since it's a commercial project, that townspeople should be paying for that traffic light. It's conceivable that the traffic survey could recommend changes to that new entrance, and therefore it might recommend a dedicated right turn lane going east so that there could be a dedicated lane going east on the right, so that there could be a dedicated left turn lane going east, in which case we would have to take land by eminent domain in front of TD Bank and pay for it. It's possible that a traffic survey could recommend a dedicated right turn lane going west, in which case we would have a situation where we're taking land from Longmeadow Shops by eminent domain, paying them for the land, and then creating a dedicated right turn lane so that they can have a better entrance into their shops. It's also possible that we could that they could recommend the cheap way, which would be change the entrance and exit and create some sort of a barrier on Williams Street so that you can't make a left turn going east and you can't make a left turn going east from heading east, or you can't make a left turn exiting the parking lot. All of these things are up in the air. Nobody knows what they're going to recommend. And therefore, we don't know what the costs would be to the town. Now, when somebody has a project like this, traffic mitigation is part of the cost of doing business. That's the way in any project is, and they probably have already figured it out as to what it would cost them. So I would like to present an amendment, and I will read it, and it's a very simple amendment, and it states, all costs for traffic mitigation required or recommended by the traffic survey resulting from approval of this warrant article shall be the sole responsibility of the owners of the land being rezoned from Residence A to the business district.
Well, could I see the motion, please? Sure. The amendment, rather? Before I take a second. We'll accept that amendment. Do I hear a second to the amendment? All right, the amendment is moved and seconded. Further discussion on the amendment. Mr. Wallman.
Now, I have already previously stated what my thoughts were about the possibilities of traffic mitigation. Basically, this amendment gives the members of the town meeting a chance to vote on what they're willing to pay for. If you're willing to pay for all of this traffic mitigation, then vote no, and then vote yes on the main motion. If you feel, yeah, you're in favor of the main motion, but you don't want to have to pay for somebody else's traffic mitigation, then vote yes, and vote yes on the main motion. And if you don't want the main motion at all, then you have to think about, well, if this thing does pass, what do I want to pay for, and then make your decision accordingly. I'm just opening it up to the town, and my whole purpose was to give the townspeople a chance to state openly how they feel about paying or not paying for this traffic mitigation. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Mr. Starr, on the amendment, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd also like to just take 1 second and thank you for your organization of this meeting. It is just superb, and I think we are seeing what the results can be of a well-run and beautifully done meeting. Thank you.
I wasn't expecting that.
I know you weren't, but it's just like we rehearsed. No, we didn't. We didn't. He really didn't know it was coming. But on this motion, I actually have a question. I think it's for Mr. Colton in regard to this. Would not everything that my friend Dr. Woolman, I agree with him that if there are any needs for traffic lights or anything else that as a result of this commercial project need to be done, that it would be paid for by the Longmeadow Shops. But isn't that part of the site and design? And this is a zone change. I'm a little confused about how, since we don't have a site plan, how this is a motion that actually is in order for a zone change. And I just have that question. But I would like to know from the planning board, isn't that already subsumed in the work that they do?
Mr. Colton, please.
Well, actually, I'm not entirely sure that the motion is germane either, but insofar as the chair has recommended ruled that it is, certainly traffic mitigation or the mitigation of any problems caused by this new project would be covered under site and design review. What I suspect, however, might be a problem is, I mean, standing here, I can't tell you what percentage of the traffic on Bliss Road and Long Meadows, excuse me, Bliss Road and William Street goes to the Long Meadow shops, but I mean, clearly, I would guess it's clearly less than half. And the problem is the traffic on the streets. I mean, assuming, you know, again, I'm just throwing totally fictitious numbers out at you, but assuming that there were, I don't know, 5,000 cars a day currently traveling on those streets, and if it was said that this new construction might add, again, I don't know, another, let's say 400 cars to the mix, you know, obviously it's adding, I mean, it's adding traffic, but, you know, most of the traffic, you know, is not and would still not be from them. I don't know how, I'm not sure that a court would uphold putting all of the cost on the petitioner. We certainly would attempt to get them to pay their fair share of anything, and certainly anything that was directly caused by them. I mean, we would certainly attempt to have them pay for all of it. But when they're clearly going to be, I mean, in terms of additional traffic is clearly going to be a very minor percentage of the overall traffic, and it's also been suggested that because of the casino, there'll be an increase in traffic there as well, which could well be far more than the increase in traffic for, you know, adding a couple stores in the Long Meadow shops. So I mean, I'm not sure I can answer. I mean, I know I can't give you a definitive answer. We would certainly attempt, whether this amendment passes or not, we would certainly attempt to have the petitioner responsible for paying as much of the added costs that were caused by their project. But I'm not sure. You could say, for example, if William Street needed to be repaved, I'm not sure you can say, oh, well, you're adding a J. Crew to the Long Meadow shop, so now we're going to make you pave William Street. You know, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's about the best I can do.
I hear you saying that this is certainly an item that you will be, or the
no, I mean, certainly it's something we would be looking into, and we would be attempting to make the petitioner pay for any things that needed to be done because of the project, when it's partially the project and partially other.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I'd also
Colton.
just note that in response to an earlier question, landscaping is also one of the criteria we look into under site design.
Thank you, Mr. Colton. Mr. Starr, please.
And Mr. Moderator, if you would reconsider whether that is a germane amendment, that would be appreciated.
Well, the question, I'm talking with town council, is whether this, I know that I've allowed this amendment, but the question is whether it's within the scope of the article. Now, when you get into a question of whether it's within the scope of the article. Scope of the article is a wide open thing. In construing a motion or an amendment to an article, the standard is very broad. But I have to say that the amendment appears to me to be outside a zone change. It doesn't have anything to do with a zone change, or it has obviously something to do with the zone change, but that's what we're talking about here, not what happens after the zone change, because we're not there yet. So I'm gonna rule it outside the scope of the motion. All right. Further discussion on the motion, the main motion. All right. Seeing none, we'll move directly to a vote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to address the people in the back. You must be seated. There are seats up front. There are seats here. It would be in your interest to sit up here in front, because this is the way it's going to work, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to require a degree of your patience. We have the boxes set up?
Not yet.
Set them up.
We gotta get the election workers.
All right, we need to spend about 5 minutes for the election workers to get in here so they can vote. But as I said before, your pink card, the pink card that you have, is your ballot for the main motion, and that's what we're doing right now. There are pencils that will be handed out. If you are in favor of the motion, you write yes on the back of your pink card. If you are not in favor of the article, write no. Now, the way we're going to do it, there's going to be a box on this side, ladies and gentlemen, and a box on this side, one manned by the assistant town clerk and the other manned by our town clerk. I'm going to start by sections. With this section first, we have an usher. If the ushers will take their position, I'm requesting that you go up by this first section right here. First, the select board and the school committee will put their ballots in. Then we're going to do this section for this side and this section right in front for this side. You'll go up by rows so that this should be a very quick process. You fill out right on your ballot, and the ushers will allow you up by rows. You go up on this side, put your ballot into the box, and then return to your seat. You have to write yes or no. You have to put your pink ballot, whether there's a yes or no or a blank. But you have to put your pink ballot into that box. So let's, we have the boxes there.
She has set them up there, right there.
Where are they?
They're right back there. She set
We'll
them
get
up
them up there.
Make sure Mike can let me hand the card.
Oh, yes. And ladies and gentlemen, there's two other things. Once you deposit your pink ticket into that box, you'll be given another color-coded card, a different color. And in the event, after the result of the election is known, if there's a motion for reconsideration, you have that red card, that whatever color it is, that becomes the color of the night. Okay? Now, there's also one other thing. Those doors, once this voting process begins, the police are going to close those doors, and you can leave, but you cannot come back in. So that's why those people in back, if you're going to vote at all, you're going to have a seat. There's still some seats out here in the front. I'd have you come down here and sit down, because those are the first sections that are going to be counted or voted. So remember, you'll be issued another card. Once you are in the auditorium, you can leave, but you cannot come in while the voting is going on. I'm starting with can we have the select board, the finance committee, and all these people on the front rows, the school committee, make their ballot right now. You write yes in favor, no, you're not in favor. There are, what?
I need some counters because I can't watch the box and get those cards done myself. So I need the counters to come up and help.
Would the counters please come up to the podium? All counters, please come up to the podium. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the result. There were 897 votes cast. Of the 897, 729 in favor, 168 opposed. The motion passes. They needed a 2/3 vote, which was 598 to pass. They got 729. So the motion passes by a 2/3 vote. I will now move to entertain a motion to dissolve this special town meeting. All those opposed? All those in favor? Motion is here. The special town meeting is hereby dissolved. All right. 800.